have here a bunch of tunes by Pat Metheny. So this is the music of Pat Metheny. In these videos, we're looking at famous jazz artists, composers, and we're trying to figure out why does it sound like Pat Metheny, or why does it sound like Kurt Rosenwinkel, or what have you? Are there certain rhythms they use, or certain harmonies they favor, or maybe different influences they have brought to the table? And we're going to look at all that, and I'm not claiming that I can answer those questions, we're just investigating. And of course, Pat Metheny has such an incredible body of work that we can't look at everything. It was hard to pick tunes, but I picked 3 tunes by Pat Metheny that I think are a little bit different, that will show us different kind of aspects of his musical world. And then there's a bit of a mystery tune here that I will save for the end. It's not by him, but when I saw him perform here recently, or it's a year ago, I guess now, in Sweden, he mentioned this tune as one of his favorite tunes. It's a Swedish tune. And I've been searching for it since, and then I found it in a very, very obscure real book. So we'll take a look at that tune last, and if you know that tune, I will be very surprised. So let's get started, shall we? Let's start with one of my favorite Pat Metheny tunes, Minuano 6/8, and I found a pretty cool backing track, so let's do this. So the backing track is by Marcelinho Ferreira. I'll put a link to that. So here the influence is obvious, and we all know this, that Pat Metheny is very inspired by Brazilian music. But this is not necessarily just Brazilian music. I think it's South American music in general, because it's 6/8. It's not a typical bossa nova kind of. It's in 6/8. So I think they have like music like that in Argentina and other places in South America as well. Like you have the joropo and stuff like that. So looking at the AI explanation of the influences here, 6/8 time signature. The 6/8 in the title explicitly refers its meter and metric modulations. I don't know about metric modulations. It's like feeling, you have this kind of, it goes back and forth between dun 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 dun. You can feel like the 4 as well, like you can in a lot of this kind of South American music. Furthermore, the AI suggests that some core musical influences are Argentinian chacarera. You have to take this with a little bit of grain of salt because it's AI, right? But yeah, so this is Brazilian styles, particularly music from the Minas Gerais region. And the title also refers to the Minuano wind, which is a cold, fierce Minuano wind that blows across the southern plains of Brazil and Uruguay, capturing the sweeping cinematic movement of the music. Yeah, so Minas Gerais, which I'm really butchering that name, is a place where I think that's where Milton Nascimento comes from, and this music is very inspired by Milton Nascimento. And what we just played is what most people play, but there's much more to this tune. We have the whole introduction, and then there's a percussive, like composed section. So why don't we look at the first part of the tune as well? Before we do that, though, I want to play along with the music score here, because I want to make sure that we play the melody correctly, rhythmically. So here's the bass line, right? Which makes me think of like music from like Venezuela. This should be an octave higher, right? You have that 4 against 3 there. This is the coda. So you see these long modal sections with like minor chords, major 7. We see that a lot in Pat Metheny's music, this openness, like in that there are long, the chords last for many bars, like over longer, the harmonic rhythm is long. And the chords are kind of diatonic, but not really. So it's almost like, if you're thinking you're in C major, you have these chords, but he adds the chords that are from the modal interchange low, so C minor, so A flat. It's like he gives you more options. So that's one ingredient I find a lot of times. We shall see more of that in the next tune or a later tune. So it's important to notice the rhythm, the rhythmic notation here of the melody. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1. It's like that's on the beat. The next time when it goes to that F major 7, the melody, it doesn't land on that 1, it's an anticipation. And this might seem like a minor detail, but it's a major detail. It's very important to understand that, because these are those little nuances, or in my opinion, big things that separates the professional musician from the amateur who's kind of playing the melody by ear, as opposed to somebody who actually knows exactly how to play the melody with the correct rhythm and understands that. And because if you want to play with Pat Metheny group, if you're hoping to play with that group, you would need to know exactly how this melody is supposed to be played like that. So this can teach you a good lesson on that. And MuseScore is actually very good for practicing this way. So I practice with MuseScore all the time. That's why I entered this into MuseScore and I used to click. All right, so let's look at the other section of the tune. So there is this. It was still in 3, and it's kind of this kind of samba in 3, but it's more rubato-ish in the beginning before the drums come in, and there's piano. I think it's piano. It's playing this ostinato figure, which is everything is offbeat. It's like to bam bam gang gang gang, and then there's this vocal melody on top of that. So let's just play along with the MuseScore again. Okay, here we go. One, two, three. 1, 2, 3. The question is, can you hear that if I turn the metronome off? Or do you start hearing it 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 instead of the way it's supposed to be? Then you also have a bit of a handicap. So you have to develop the ability to hear phrases offbeat, even when everything is like that. So you have to, if you shift the gravity of the rhythm to hearing it as downbeats, you're gonna hear it wrong. And this is a skill that you have to develop. Drummers work on this all the time, and we need to as well. So working with the metronome and MuseScore can help us with that. And that's part of the reason why I'm doing this. I'm looking at these musicians to find things that I can learn from them, so that understanding kind of their studying these tunes, things come up like this, like, oh, there's everything is offbeat, and this is something that I would have to work on. Let's say you would play this with a band, you would definitely have to work on this. So I'm not going to look at the last section of the tune where it goes into this whole timpani, or it's not timpani, it's like marimba section. So just a word on this. I make these charts and they're on my Patreon page, but they're not meant to be charts for you to perfect charts of the transcriptions of the tunes. Sometimes people ask me, if I join your Patreon, will I get a PDF? It's like, yes, there are PDFs that go with the lessons, but that's not really how this Patreon works, in my opinion. If you want a chart of these tunes, there are Pat Metheny transcription books. There's the Pat Metheny songbook, which is great, and then there's the Pat Metheny real book, I think it's called, or the Pat Metheny fake book. They're both excellent. The idea is that I'm making these PDFs so that you can study this music with me. And Patreon is meant so that people can support content creators that they like, that they want to see continue doing this work. So I would do this anyway. If I didn't have a Patreon account, I would still do this. It's just that now I can share it with people. And that means I have to do a lot of video editing and creating PDFs and all this stuff. And that's what I see as the work that I do, that I want people to support. And that I thank those who support me on Patreon. And that's how you should think about it. Like, it's supporting the content creator, not purchasing a PDF. And if you do think that this work is important and you would like me to see more, you can, if you're considering joining me on Patreon and supporting me on Patreon, it's not that I want all your money so I can go and buy fancy whiskey. It's that so that the channel can grow and I could do more stuff, and all this stuff, video editing software and computers and cameras and all this stuff and lighting, and it's expensive stuff. So again, thank you to my patrons. So let's continue with the next tune. So I think this year is the anniversary of Bright Size Life, Pat Metheny's first album. It's like 50 years since that was released. And he had already been playing with Gary Burton, but his first solo album was called Bright Size Life, of course, which is a monumental jazz guitar piece of history. And it was very different from how you think of jazz guitar, I would say. And I was reading that book. There's a book called Pat Metheny, the ECM Years. It's not here. I lent it to a colleague of mine. And there he talks about, I think it was Gary Burton who encouraged him to do this, because Pat Metheny thought that he was going to do a straight ahead jazz record. But Gary Burton was like, no, you want to play these tunes that you have, because they're different. And one tune there is called, I'm going to pronounce this as Unquity Road. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it that correctly. I think it's Unquity. I think it has to do with the word unique. So Unquity Road. I think it's a place in Kansas. And comment below if you know more about this. It's also a road in Boston, I think. So maybe that's what it is. And here it's a lot of open triads. Three-note voicings, moving in unexpected kind of ways. And that's diatonic for a while. It's kind of unusual, right? So it doesn't sound like Barney Kessel or Kenny Burrell. So let's again play with the Muse score. it's hard to kind of pinpoint what is going on here exactly, but there's a bunch of triads, and often it's the same, something that kind of binds it together, like in top note. Sometimes there's this contrary motion, so that D7 over A going to B flat, open triad, there's contrary motion. And sometimes it's moving. And funny key changes, and it's like cinematic music to me when it goes like this. We looked at the similar thing with Bill Frisell. Previously I've done the music of Bill Frisell, right? Like, so it's kind of similar. So what are the influences here? I want to suggest, and remember that this is not a PhD dissertation or anything, this is just speculative on my part, that he is a little bit inspired by 20th century composers here, maybe, but I'm not sure exactly who. So let's ask AI. The album's unique sound was shaped by several distinct musical roots. Gary Burton's harmonic openness. As a member of vibraphonist Gary Burton's quintet, young Metheny absorbed concepts regarding broad, open harmonies, expansive quartet voicings. Quartet voicings? What? Yeah, I think a lot of this is coming from Gary Burton. Avant-garde harmolodics, is that a word? Yeah, he's got a deep reverence for saxophonist Ornette Coleman. The influence of free bop phrasing and harmolodics, I don't know what that word is. Academic and guitar mentors. This is very interesting. The album's fresh triad heavy compositions were heavily inspired by the intervallic design concepts of guitar teacher Joe DiOrio and the compositional frameworks of Professor Ron Miller from the University of Miami. I think Pat Metheny went to the University of Miami. I don't know who Ron Miller is, but Joe DiOrio I'm very familiar with because he was one of the instructors at GIT when I went there back in the day. And he's got all these concepts, big intervals, fifths and fourths, and of course Bright Size Life is based on fifths. But that very much sounds like a Joe DiOrio exercise. It's right out of the Joe DiOrio kind of book, and it would be very satisfying if that's the simple explanation that Pat Metheny is just inspired by Joe DiOrio here. By the way, I have a video on Bright Size Life, so I'll put a link to that and I'll include that PDF. I think there was a PDF with that in the Patreon package there, so you can study that tune as well. And there are videos from GIT where Pat Metheny is playing with Joe DiOrio, so he was a very influential. I don't know if Joe DiOrio was teaching over there in Miami or something, or how they passed, how they met, but yeah. What else? Midwestern nostalgia. Metheny's melodic, airy, emotionally transparent phrasing is deeply tied to his Midwestern roots, giving the album a wistful, pastoral atmosphere. Moving on to the next tune, which is in 4/4, Follow Me, which will showcase another kind of aspect of Pat Metheny's music. So let's play along with the music score here as well. Here comes solo section. And his famous synth guitar. And then it just stays on E minor. Again, there's more to it than this. This is not the whole tune. Then the form is very long. And this is one thing that you notice right off the bat, that this is a long form with many different sections. That's why people don't really call Pat Metheny tunes on jam sessions. If they do, it's like a part of the tune, like face dance. You don't play the whole thing, or like with the first tune we played, you just play that part. But this would be something you would have to rehearse and look at. Different sections. Again, the solo section, by the way, is a completely different section. And I love that about Pat Metheny's music, that often when you play jazz, you solo over the form. But he has often actually written a whole new part for the solos, or for each soloist. And these are, again, these long modal, just majors, like Lydian sounds, minor. So there isn't like any altered chords or anything like that. There is just like major sevenths and minor sevenths. I don't think there are any altered chords in this tune. And this is the same thing that comes up as with Russell. It's like, what is this, jazz? You're not supposed to play jazz guitar like this. But why not? And that's another aspect of Pat Metheny's playing and his music that I love, that he's a guitar player. You know, jazz guitar is supposed to be like that, and Pat Metheny plays like that sometimes too, and I love that. But why not play E minor, like Ed Sheeran chords? I like to play this like G open triad over B, and include the And in that famous interview with Rick Beato, we talked about this before. He says that surprisingly often you find jazz guitar players who can't strum. And I think there's like Nashville tuned guitars, acoustic guitars and all this stuff. I don't have a Nashville tuned guitar, but I know he uses that a lot. Again, to create this kind of Midwestern open kind of sound. So yeah, the melody is supposed to be played with harmonics. But if you're playing with a regular jazz group, you're probably not gonna hear yourself, so better to play it normally. There are some tunes where he's like really strumming, like, and I mean it's a guitar. This is how you play guitar. And he also says in that interview with Rick Beato that he wanted to combine that, because the guitar is a rhythmic instrument, with the kind of drumming of Elvin Jones. That was his vision. He's not just drumming like 1, 2, 3, 4. It could be like the like an Elvin Jones goon, like Equinox, right? The kind of Elvin Jones kind of rhythmic patterns. And I thought, when I heard him say that, that's just so brilliant, and that's why he's Pat Metheny. Okay, let's move on to the mystery tune. So I saw him play here in Sweden. I'm in Sweden, and he was, you know, the solo tour he did recently, or a year ago, I guess now. And he started talking about the Swedish tune. And I thought, oh, okay, he's just kind of catering, sucking up to the Swedish audience to get some, you know, points. But then he started talking about these musicians and this piano player, Bengt Hallberg. And I thought, oh, yeah, maybe he's onto something here. Because Bengt Hallberg, whatever you want to pronounce it, was a Swedish piano player who is one of the most famous here. He played with people like Stan Getz and stuff like that, but I don't think he had like an international reputation. And he wrote a lot of stuff, a lot of music for movies and TV shows when I was growing up and stuff. And there's this tune of his called Valsa Nova, or I don't know if it's Walsa Nova or if it's Swedish Valsa Nova or whatever. And he was talking about that tune and how this tune defines how he thinks about harmony. And I think it does. And I had never heard of the tune. I had heard of this piano player, of course, but I'd never heard of this tune. And then I couldn't find it. And then I found this book. If you have this book, I will be very impressed. The Real Swede. This is a Swedish real book. It's like an attempt to make a real book with just Swedish tunes. And it's very hard to find even here. And this tune is in there. And it's fantastic. It's called Walsa Nova. And it's a waltz. Let's play it. Try to play a little better. Sounds like Pat Metheny, right? That's this pedal thing. It goes to B7. Conventional harmony, and then this key change is not that weird. It's like something Bill Evans could do. It's kind of Bill Evans-y. That's a little bit surprising. So what is happening there, we're having a melody where you establish a key. That's the key. And then you're expanding on that. Melodic minor. D, you go to a different for a second. And now we're expecting. And then that note is the same, but we go to a completely different key there. But so that's that kind of thing you can do, right? When you're composing, you're setting up the audience or whoever's listening for expectation and then surprise, you know, so stuff like that. And this melody takes like this kind of unexpected turn there, and there is some really kind of strange harmonies, but it's still pretty and it still sounds pretty straightforward. It's just not, it's somewhere between conventional jazz harmony and more non-functional harmony. So, you know, like Bill Evans, some of his tunes, like his more experimental tunes, I think he's also very inspired by, I mean, I know Pat Metheny is inspired by Falling Grace, right? Like that tune is similar. It is not completely non-functional harmony. There is some kind of key there. There are dominants going to its tonics and stuff like that. So, and also, you know, the music of Ornette Coleman, all this stuff. But there's much more to Pat Metheny's music. I can't cover everything. I know he's into Steve Reich, and modern 20th century composers and stuff like that. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that I'm forgetting and can't include in this video. But hopefully this gave you some ideas on how Pat Metheny kind of creates the musical world that he has created for himself, and how that can inspire you to play his music and find your own musical voice, hopefully. So that was the music of Pat Metheny. All these PDFs are on my Patreon page. I want to thank you for your time and attention, and I shall see you next time.